React Native, a framework used to build amazing Android and iOS native mobile applications using the library you already know all about, React.js. I'm incredibly excited to welcome you to the first ever React Native video on the JavaScript Mastery YouTube channel. After many requests, I finally done it for you guys. In this video, you'll build and deploy your own ultimate React Native application from scratch. With slick, responsive UI, this NFT Marketplace app is the most modern cross-platform app you can currently find on YouTube. The NFT Marketplace application has two main screens: the homepage, where you can see all listed NFTs and search through them, and a beautiful NFT Details page where you can get more information about a specific NFT and see all of its active bids. But that's not all. Here on JavaScript Mastery, I always want to take you a step further. Alongside building this React Native application, we'll also build a special landing page dedicated to our mobile application. On this smooth single-page website, you'll be able to share all the details about the app, the link to download it, as well as all of the app's features, exactly as the real application-based companies do. This will allow you to add both the mobile app and the landing page to your portfolio, stand out from the crowd, and get a high-paying job. On top of that, since the app we're building is about NFTs and Web 3.0, we're going to do something revolutionary. I'm going to teach you how to set up a completely decentralized domain name like .crypto, .nft, or my favorite, simply .x, which are 100% owned by you. We're also going to host our landing page on something called IPFS, a completely decentralized peer-to-peer protocol. Alongside this video, I've also prepared a complete React Native and Web 3.0 roadmaps and cheat sheets that cover everything you need to become a fantastic React Native developer. The React Native guide includes an entire step-by-step React Native roadmap, prerequisites, and even React Native project ideas that you can build, deploy, and put on your portfolio to get a job. You can download the Ultimate Guide and use it as a reference on your development journey whenever you're unsure what to learn next. The link to the comprehensive guide is in the description. I strongly recommend downloading it and then referring to it while watching the video. Although the theme of this application is an NFT marketplace, we'll mostly be handling the UI and UX and the layout of the application. So, if you want to learn everything there is to know about Web 3.0, NFTs, and blockchain development, I suggest you downloading the free Ultimate Web 3.0 roadmap. The link is also in the description. With that said, you might be wondering, what are the prerequisites to build such an amazing application? I'm happy to say that you have to know just a bit of JavaScript and React to get started. No previous React Native knowledge is required. One really important thing I'd like to point out is that if you'd like to see more React Native videos on this channel, like the video, subscribe, and most importantly, leave a comment saying that. If we get 20,000 likes, and if I see a lot of interest in the comments, we'll start doing more React Native videos in the future. And the design for our beautiful NFT Marketplace mobile application was created by Alvian Design, so a huge shout out to him. The link to his profile will be linked below. Let's get ready to build this awesome application. Before we dive into the code, I want to share with you a revolutionary tool that I recently discovered and immediately started using. It's called Unstoppable Domains. Unstoppable Domains allows you to buy domains, but not your typical .com or .net domains. Instead, you can buy completely decentralized internet domains like .crypto, .nft, or again, my favorite, .x, which are 100% owned and controlled by you. We're gonna buy a domain name together right now so that we can use it later on when deploying the landing page for our React Native application. There's a few things that I love about NFT domains. Unfortunately, with the regular .com domains, most of the good ones are already taken. So I usually start adding some random characters or even words to the end to get something that doesn't even feel close to what I've initially wanted. If you're watching this video now, you're early and you still have the chance to get that perfect NFT domain name, exactly the one you're looking for. Short, sweet, and meaningful. So, whether you're just diving into blockchain or you're preparing for the next big thing, now is the time to buy and secure your own unique domain name today before somebody else reserves it. Having a custom domain name will definitely make your website stand out from the crowd. One thing that I love about Unstoppable Domains is that there are absolutely no renewal fees. You can buy the domain name once, and it's minted as an NFT, and it's yours forever. Other domain name providers charge you for your domains each year. And as cryptocurrencies get more and more popular, you'll need a human-readable domain name for your wallet, opposed to that extremely long hexadecimal string. Imagine that. You'll be able to accept payments straight through the NFT domain. Since I've partnered with Unstoppable Domains, they decided to offer a special limited deal only for people watching this video. The deal lasts 72 hours, and if you get $40 worth of domains, you get 40 extra in Unstoppable Domain promo credit. The link is in the description. Finally, let's get our domain name. You can choose your name and then one of the popular domain endings, or you can just go with something popular you think that could be worth a lot of money in the future. I'll go with JS Mastery and click search. I like the .crypto and .x domains the most, and as you can see, they are the ones that I've already purchased. You can choose your own domain name ending and click continue to cart. Finally, you can click checkout and enter your details. I'll see you straight inside of the dashboard. Once you're done with the purchase, you can head to Domains and then go under My Domains. You should be able to see the domain name that you've purchased. Once we develop our landing page, we'll mint one of these pages and I'll show you how to attach them to your website. With that said, let's dive straight into the development of our great React Native application. To start creating our React Native application, we're going to start from bare beginnings. You can go ahead and create a new empty folder on our desktop. Let's name it something like React_native_app. Of course, feel free to use any name that you prefer. Then, let's simply drag and drop the folder into an empty Visual Studio Code window. In this tutorial, I'll be using Visual Studio Code as it is the most popular code editor out there. But if you have another preference, feel free to use any other code editor. With that said, we can open up a terminal window by going to View and then Terminal, or just open it up by pressing Ctrl and then backtick. Once we have our terminal open, we need to initialize our React Native application. And there are a few approaches we can take here. If you open up the official React Native documentation by going to reactnative.dev, you'll be able to read everything there is to know about React Native, how to use it, what is it for, and what are its advantages. As you can see, just by quickly taking a look at this code, it is looking almost exactly the same as basic React. The only difference here is that instead of divs or spans or paragraphs, we have elements such as view, header, and text, which are native mobile elements. With that said, we can scroll up and click the Get Started button. If you have some free time, feel free to pause this video and go over the basics that you can read right here. But since you're watching this video, you're gonna be learning everything with me. So don't stress about it, we're going to go through everything together. Therefore, we can skip the basics and go straight to the environment setup and setting up the development environment. In here, we are presented
with two different approaches to initialize our React Native applications. If you are new to mobile development, the easiest way to get started is the Expo CLI. Expo is a set of tools built around React Native, and while it has many features, the most relevant feature for us right now is that it can get you writing a React Native app within minutes. The only thing you need will be a recent version of Node.js and a phone or emulator. So as you can read right here, Expo is going to make everything so much easier for us. On the other hand, if you're already familiar with mobile development, you may want to use React Native CLI. But in that case, you need to have the Xcode on your Apple devices or Android Studio on Windows and Linux devices to get started. And trust me when I tell you, these tools are heavy. They can take dozens of gigabytes of space. They take crazy amounts of time to download, install, and then the setup is just crazy. So, since it's highly probable that you don't have these tools yet, and you definitely don't want to install them now, we'll be using Expo CLI for this video. And Expo CLI is something that I use with all of my React Native applications. So if we scroll just a bit down, you can see that we have two different tabs here, Expo CLI Quick Start and React Native CLI Quick Start. We'll be using the Expo CLI. So to start off, first of all, you have to have Node installed on your device. You can head to nodejs.org and then simply download the recommended for most users version. You most likely already have Node, but if you don't, this process is going to take just about a minute. Download, install, and you're ready to go. Then we're going to install Expo CLI by copying this command right here, going back to our editor and simply pasting it and pressing enter. With this command, we're going to install the Expo CLI tools globally on our device, so every other time that you develop your React Native applications, you'll already have all of these tools available to use. This process is going to take just about a minute, so I'm gonna pause this video and I'll be right back. There we go, our Expo CLI has been installed. You can see that npm is going to give us a message that there are a few vulnerabilities. If you want, you can go ahead and fix them by copying the command npm audit fix and then simply pressing enter. And there we go, Expo CLI has been installed globally. npm just gave us a warning that there are some vulnerabilities, but that is completely fine for us at this point. We can proceed to the second step, which is initializing our new project. So the command is going to be expo init and then the name of the project or the path to the directory. So what we can do is clear the terminal by running clear and then finally running expo init and then /. This is going to initialize a React Native application right inside of our current directory. Expo even allows us to choose a template. We have blank, blank with TypeScript, and we even have tabs that include several example screens and tabs using React Navigation and TypeScript. And finally, there is the bare minimum. As you already know, here in JavaScript Mastery, I try to teach you to do everything completely on your own from scratch. So, of course, we're going to choose a completely blank, minimal app as clean as an empty canvas. Let's press enter. It's going to download the template. It's installing JavaScript dependencies as we speak, and this process should be done in no time. And there we go. Your project is ready. To start, you can simply run yarn start or npm start. So in this case, I'm going to go with npm, and that's going to initialize the expo start command. Right here, you're going to get a QR code, but what you can do is hold Control and then click on this link right here. That's going to open up our, let's call it a dashboard, and on the bottom left, we have our QR code, which you can scan with your mobile device, be that iPhone or an Android device. To explain every step of the way, I also want to show you what's happening on the mobile device that's next to me. So I've shared my mobile screen right here on the side of our Metro dashboard. You'll have to have to your Play Store if you're on Android or to your App Store on iOS. And then you have to install the application called Expo or Expo Go. Simply search for it and then click install. This application is incredibly lightweight, so it should be installed in no time. There we go. I'm going to open it up right here, and you should see a screen that looks like this. What we can do now is click the Scan QR code button. It's going to ask you to open up your camera. And then, as you can see, I'm right here. Hi there, the video is currently recording. The only thing you have to do is scan the QR code. In just a few seconds, the application will start building, and you'll be able to see the developing version of our React Native application right on our phone that's next to you. And there we go. Hello there, friend. We got it. We can close this, and you can see open app.js to start working on your app. So if you think about it, this is incredibly crazy. If we go back to our code, go to our app.js and edit this to say something like my first React Native application. And if we now save this, you should be able to see the change live on your phone. I'll be showing my phone right here next to my screen just for reference, but I also have it right now in my hand next to me, and that should be the same situation for you. This is incredibly crazy. So far, we've been always developing everything on our desktop device. The website is right there in our browser, but now we can actually see it and feel it in our hand with our React Native mobile application. With that said, the setup is done. That's about it. The only thing you have to do is run npm start, scan the QR code with your phone, and we're good to go. Now I'll stop it from running for just a bit, and then we're going to install all of the necessary dependencies for our application. Then we're going to quickly relaunch it. Just below this video, in the description, there's going to be a package.json file. So simply copy it and paste it over your existing one. Once you do that, we can be sure you're going to have the exact same versions of specific dependencies so that the code that we wrote together has the same output for both of us. With that said, we can open up our terminal and simply run npm install --legacy -peer -deps as in dependencies and simply press enter. This is now going to install all of the necessary dependencies, and then we'll be able to rerun our application and start with the development. There we go, the dependencies have been installed, and we can simply run npm start. That's going to run our expo, and if we again control click this, we're gonna have our Metro bundler one more time, but you can see that even under recently opened, we already have our React Native application. We can again open up the scan QR code and then simply scan it right here. There we go. My first React Native application. We can go back to the code, remove this status bar right here, change this to something like hello world, just to see if the changes are still being made. And we can remove the status bar right here. Back on our phone, we don't even have to scan our QR code anymore because we have it here under recently opened. So if you click that, scroll down, and click this reload icon right here, it's gonna bundle it again, and you should be able to see hello world. Great, we can finally start with the development. We will no longer need our Metro open, so we can close it up, and we can close up the documentation. The only thing we need is going to be the editor, and on the side of the editor, we're gonna have our mobile screen, at least on my end. You can place your phone somewhere near you and then look at it every time we make a specific change. Great. To start with the development, we're of course going to start from our app.js file. Inside of here, we're gonna import a few things. We can delete this import right here and import in curly braces, create stack navigator. And that's coming from @react-navigation/stack. We're going to also import in curly braces, navigation, container, and also default theme, which is coming from add react-navigation/native. There we go. Let's simply fix this typo right here. And finally, we're going to import in curly braces use fonts coming from /screen. You can notice that we have an error on the right side, and that's because we removed our style sheets, so we can no longer use these demo styles. We can delete them, and we can remove our style right here, just so we have a clean working environment. It's actually a great thing that we got this error, because it shows you that whenever you press Ctrl S or save the file, the changes will be visible right away on your mobile phone. In this case, I have a typo. The use fonts will not be coming from /screen. They will be coming from expo-font. There we go. So as soon as we fix that, we should have one less error to worry about. You can also notice that we don't have access to view by default. Every native mobile component has to be imported at the top. Think about it. Initially, at our demo project, we had, let me just go back a bit, we had all of the imports straight from React Native. And that's still going to be the case. Whenever you want to use some views, which are exactly like divs in web application, or text, which are exactly like paragraphs in web applications, you can import them from React Native. But in our app, we won't need any of the native components because there will be handled the navigation. So what we can do right now is simply remove everything that's inside of the return and return navigation container like this. Inside of there, we're going to have the stack navigator like this. And finally, inside of there, we're going to have two different screens, stack.screen. And these are going to be self-closing components like so. Of course, this stack navigator is not yet created. We have to use this function create stack navigator to create it. And if all of this code is looking a bit weird, don't worry at all. Think of this as using React Router in your basic React applications. Instead of that, here we're using add react-navigation. Even by simply Googling it, you can come to their React navigation page. It is easy to use, and it has components built for iOS and Android. As simple as that. Think of it as a React router. So to get our stack, we have to say const stack is equal to create stack navigator, and then we call it as a function. Now, before we worry about these errors, let's actually complete our navigation. We can start by transitioning our app into a basic arrow function component. Const app is equal to an arrow function, and then at the bottom, we can say export default app, as we usually do in our React applications. Then we can create the theme by declaring a new variable right here. Const theme is equal to an object where we're going to spread all of the elements of the default theme. We're going to access the colors. One more time, spread the default theme.colors, and then we're going to change the background, not background color, to be set to transparent. There we go. So this is just a slight modification we're making to the theme of this application. And then to the navigation container, we can say theme is equal to theme. One more typo that I have is this here. Stack navigator was supposed to be stack.navigator. As you can see, we declared our stack here, so we should be able to do stack.navigator, and that's going to be it. But we do have to provide some extra options to it. We can say screen options is going to be equal to an object where we can set the header shown to be set to false by default. And then we can provide the second prop called initial route name, and that's going to be set to home. The first route is going to have the name equal to home and a component equal to a home component, which we haven't yet created. The second one is going to have the name equal to details and then the component is also going to be details. Of course, we are yet to create these screens. So now might be a good time to do that. We're going to go to our File Explorer and create a new folder called Screens. Inside of Screens, we can create a new file called details.js and also one more file called home.js. Each one of our components is going to be a basic arrow function component. So we can simply type RAFCE and then press enter. That's going to generate a basic React arrow function component. If this snippet didn't work for you, that must mean that you don't have the necessary extension installed. The extension is going to be called ES7 React Redux React Native Snippets. So you can install it, type RAFCE, and then you should be able to see something that looks like this. Of course, since we're working with mobile, we won't have access to the div element. For now, we can simply return a text that's going to say home. We can repeat this process in our details page, RAFCE, and then details without a div. That's simply going to be a string. There we go. Now we can go back to our app, and at the top, we can import our screens by saying import home from /screens/home, and we can repeat the process one more time. Right here, this one is going to be for details. There we go. You can see we immediately get an error saying that text strings must be rendered within a text element. So we can go to our home.js, and right here we can import text like this from React-Native. Now we can render the text tag right here, and inside of there we can say home. And there we go. Now at the top left, you should be able to see a text that says home. We can repeat the process for our details. So simply import text, and then we can render it out right here. Of course, this is not looking good yet, but it will soon, trust me. So we can close our details and our home for now because our stack navigator actually works. We can see that our initial route name is home, and we can see the home component right here, which is for now simply rendering a text that says home. There is just one more thing left to do before we start implementing our home component, and that is initializing the fonts that we'll be using throughout our entire application. We can do that right here inside of our app component by saying const in square brackets loaded is equal to use fonts. We pass in an object, and now inside of this object, we have to pass all of the fonts we're planning to use. The fonts we'll be using, as well as all of the other assets like icons, images, demo NFTs, and everything else is going to be inside of the assets folder, but not this assets folder. This one we can delete. The one you'll be able to find just below this video. There's going to be a link to the complete assets folder. Make sure to copy it. It's most likely going to be zipped. Unzip it and then paste it right inside of here. There we go. You should be able to see that now you have fonts, icons, and then images for all of our NFTs. Great. We'll be using a few kinds of fonts throughout our application. The first one is going to be called Inter Bold. We can say colon, require, and then /assets/fonts, inter-bold, and then .ttf. We can add a comma, fix the typo right here, that was supposed to be require, and duplicate this line 4 more times. The second one is going to be inter-semi-bold, and that's going to be inter-semi-bold right here. Then we're going to have the inter-medium. That's going to be inter-medium right here. The last two are inter-regular and inter-regular right here as well. And the last one is inter-light, and right here, inter-light. There we go. Now we have our fonts, but they won't be loaded initially. So we have this loaded variable. We can say if not loaded, then we can return null. Else we're going to load our home component. And with our fonts loaded, we are now done with our entire app.js. It was simple, but that was the part of the setup. Now we can go to our screens, home component, and we can finally start implementing that amazing look of our NFT React Native mobile application. Let's go ahead and get started. Inside of our home component, we can first import the useState hook coming from React. As you can see, some things never change. We're already used to doing that. Then from React Native, we're going to import the view component, SafeAreaView component, as well as the FlatList. And since we're already using text, we might as well add it right here as well. FlatList is a component that simply renders the basic list. It is similar to map in React. One cool thing about FlatList is that it renders items only when they are about to appear on the screen, and it deletes them when they are off view. That lowers the memory usage. Therefore, it technically uses lazy loading for better optimization. It's quite a cool feature. And the safe area component is used to render content within the safe area boundaries of a device to make sure that everything fits on the screen. And a view is just a basic div component. Now, if you've coded React Native apps before, I might be going a bit too slow for you, but I'm trying to really cover everything as this is the first React Native application on the JavaScript Mastery YouTube channel. If you'd like more React Native applications, please let me know down in the comments. I'm really looking forward to creating more of the similar content for you guys. In the next videos, we're going to start with more in-depth topics. Now, below our React Native imports, we're going to have some local imports. First, we can import the colors in curly braces, all uppercased, and then also the NFT data. And this is going to be coming from / constants. This is a folder that we don't yet have the access to. So what you can do is also head down in the description, make sure to copy it, and then you'll be able to simply right-click right here and click paste. It's going to appear right in the root of your folder below the assets. Our constants folder doesn't contain any programming logic, so you don't have to worry about missing something out. It simply contains the imports for all of our assets, which we're exporting in a simple object, and also the dummy data for all of our NFTs. Finally, it includes some theme colors, sizes, fonts, and shadows. With that said, we can go back to our screen and we can start coding out our home component. Let's go ahead and start with the SafeAreaView. This is going to be like the outer div in our React application. We can also give it a style equal to flex1. In React Native, there are two different ways to create styles. Inline styles, which are quite popular, and also styled components. In this case, we'll be using inline styles, and then in some future videos, we can use styled components as well, just to explore different options. Now, right inside of our SafeAreaView, we're going to have our status bar. We can think of our status bar to be the same thing as a navigation bar in web applications. So what we can do is we can create a new folder called components. Again, same thing as in React. Inside of our components, we can create some components that we're going to reuse across our screens. The first one is going to be the focused status bar.js. Inside of there, I wanted to say we can run RAFCE, but actually there is RNFE, which stands for React Native Functional Export Component. So we can create that. Alongside our focused status bar component, we'll also need two different components for our homepage as well. And these are going to be a new file NFT card.js, and again, we can run RNFE, React Native Functional Export Component. And again, the last one for now is going to be the home header.js, and we can again run RNFE. There we go. Now we have to export all of these three components from the components folder by creating an index.js file. Inside of this file, we can import our home header from /home header. We can also repeat the process for our focused status bar and for our NFT card as well. Now that we've imported them here, we have to create export, and then in an object, we can simply export all of these components at once by saying export home header, NFT card, and focus status bar. That's going to allow us to go back into our home component and in one line import in curly braces NFT card, home header, as well as the focused status bar from /components. There we go. You're gonna notice that right now we have an error and it's saying that the files inside of our constants don't exist. So it's possible that it didn't properly read all of the files we added inside of our constants. What we can do is stop the terminal from running by pressing Ctrl+C and then run it one more time with npm start. This sometimes happens with React applications as well. Now, if we scroll down and reload our application, you can see it's bundling right here, and that's fine. The previous error is gone, and it's just complaining that we have an empty SafeAreaView right now. The reason for that is we didn't import it properly. The SafeAreaView is supposed to be written right here as well. There we go. So again, as in React, sometimes when you paste entire folders, Visual Studio Code or the development environment doesn't properly read all of the changes. But now we're good to continue. We've also imported all of our components and we can start using our first one, which is the focused status bar right here. It's going to be a self-closing component. We're going to also give it one prop called background, and in here that's going to be colors.primary. Now we can go into the focus status bar component and we can implement it. It's going to be fairly simple. We can import React from React, although that's not even necessary in new versions of React Native. Then we can import, instead of view and text, that's going to be status bar coming from React Native. And we're going to also import in curly braces, use is focused. That's coming from @react-navigation/core. There we go. And the only thing we have to do here is call it as a hook by saying const is focused, and then we can call the use is focused hook. This is going to give us the information on are we currently focusing the status bar. Based on that information, we can return if is focused is true. In that case, we can return the status bar, which is going to be a self-closing component. It's going to have the animated property equal to true, and we also need to pass all of the props. So that's going to be props from here, and we can simply say ... props and pass them through. These props are going to contain the background color of our status bar. And if we're not focused, we simply want to hide the status bar, so we can return null. There we go. Looks like I misspelled the status bar here, so I'm going to spell it properly, and there we go. You can see that we have this dark navigation bar now, because inside of our home component, we're passing in the proper background color. With that said, we can continue with what's underneath the status bar, and that's going to be a view. Same as a div in a React application. We can give it a style property equal to flex is 1. Inside of this view, we're going to have one more view, and this view is going to have a style equal to z index is going to be set to 0. That's going to be the div that's going to contain our NFT list. And finally, we can call our FlatList component, which is a self-closing component, which accepts a data property. For data, we're simply going to provide the NFT data, which we're importing from constants. If we go into it, you can see that that is an array with about 10 different NFTs, each containing some information like ID, name, creator, price, description, an image, and then some bids for that specific NFT. Each item in our flat list is going to be rendered like a render item like this. This is going to accept a callback function where we get each individual item right here, but inside of curly braces, and then we want to return something. For now, let's simply return that item inside of a text element. So we can say text and then return the item right here. It looks like our item contains more information than a simple name. So if we go back to our data, we'll have to return the item.name. So let's simply target the name property, and there we go. We have access to all of our NFTs in a list. Of course, later on, we'll want to render our NFT card component for each one of the items in our list. We'll also have to have a key extractor. This is going to be something similar like passing a key to a mapped element in React. We're going to accept a callback function, which is going to get the item, and it's going to return item.id, simply specifying that this property here, called ID, is going to be a unique identifier for each item in our list. We can also provide a few extra properties. The first one is called shows vertical scroll indicator, and we're going to set that to false. We don't want to show that ugly scroll bar. And the last prop is going to be the list header component, and that's going to be set to home header component like this. So now we can see our home header component appeared above our elements. If you want to learn more about each element I'm using right here, like a flat list, I would strongly recommend you simply Googling it or going to the React Native documentation and then reading a bit more about that specific element. For example, we have all of the data about our flat list and how to use it right here, as well as access to all of the props that it accepts. For example, we just use the list header component. If you click right here, you can clearly see that it is going to be a component rendered at the top of the all items, and that can be a React component. So again, reading the docs always comes in handy. Below our view containing our flat list, we're going to have one more view. And this view is going to have a few more styles. So we can open up an object and say position is going to be set to absolute. This view is going to serve as a background color that's going to be displayed behind our NFT list. So we can say top is going to be equal to 0, bottom is going to be also equal to 0, as well as the right and left. We're going to set the Z index to be equal to -1 to appear behind our NFTs. Inside of this view, we're going to have two more independent views, which are going to be self-closing tags. The first one is going to have style equal to height is 300, and background color is going to be colors.primary. Now below that one, we're going to have one more, which is going to have flex is going to be set to 1, and background is going to be colors.white. And to be able to see the changes, we just have to add the color to our background because that's going to be a background color. And there we go. Now you can see what I was talking about. We're going to have that background and we're dividing our main screen into two views, the main dark one and then the bottom white one. Of course, the NFTs are going to be displayed above both of these screens. It's going to make much more sense once we implement the NFT card component. And now might actually be a good time to start implementing it. So instead of rendering just the text with the item name here, we can render the individual NFT card as a self-closing component, and we can pass in data as a prop, and data is of course going to be our each individual NFT item. I can barely see it here, NFT card, NFT card, NFT card. Is because that's the only thing we're displaying at the moment. But as soon as we start implementing our NFT card, this is going to look much better. So let's do it right away. Inside of our NFT card, we're going to import something known as use navigation. And that's going to be coming from at react-navigation/native. We're going to also import a few things from React Native, and these are going to be view and image. We don't need React. We're going to also import some of our local imports, such as colors, sizes, shadows, and assets. And that's going to be coming from /constants. Inside of our NFT card, we already know that we're getting the data as the first and only prop. We can declare our navigation, which we're going to use soon enough. So navigation is equal to use navigation, and we call it as a hook. And we can start by styling our first view here. Let's give it a style, and let's spread this object out. Let's give it a background color equal to colors.white. We're gonna get an error because I removed the import for the text element. So let's get it back for the time being. There we go. Let's also give it a border radius to be equal to sizes.font. We can also give it a margin bottom to be equal to sizes.extra large. We can also give it a margin of sizes.base. And finally, we can spread all of our shadows .dark. There we go. So now you can see these are starting to look more like cards. And if you're wondering, where are we getting all of these styles from? Well, if we go into our constants and inside of our colors, you can see that I've already prepared for you the objects containing all of these different values. Again, this is just some CSS in JS, some values for shadows, fonts, sizes, and colors. But that's about it. Nothing special is happening behind the scenes. Inside of our view, we're going to have one more view. And this view is going to have the style property right here equal to width is a string of 100%, as well as the height is equal to 250. So now we have these real cards, and you can already scroll through your mobile application. Inside of here, we of course want to show our image. So let's render the self-closing image tag. It's going to have a few properties. Source is going to be equal to data.image. As soon as we save that, you can see something, and these seem just like solid colors. But if you scroll down, you're going to notice that there are some images here indeed. What we have to do is of course resize them. So there is a handy resize mode property, which we can set to cover. Alongside that cover, we also have to provide some styles, and these are going to be width, which is going to be set to 100%. We're going to also have the height set to 100%. We need the border top left radius equal to sizes.font. And finally, border top right radius, just to make it a bit rounded. And there we go. We have our NFT cards, and they're looking great just with this image right here. Now, of course, we have to provide some additional information to each one of these cards. Things like descriptions, titles, as well as the buttons to go to the NFT details page. The first thing we can add is going to be just a little heart icon at the top right of each one of our cards. That's going to be our like button. So let's create it right here below our image. We can call it a circle button like this. It's going to be a self-closing element, and we can pass a few props to it. First, the image URL, which is going to be assets.heart. We can also pass the right property, which is going to be set to 10, and also the top property, which is going to be set to 10 as well, to divide it a bit from the top and the right side for it to appear right here. Of course, we don't yet have access to the circle button because we haven't created it yet. So what we can do is go to our components and create a new file called button.js. Inside of there, we can run rnfe to create our basic structure. We can call this button a circle button. And instead of exporting it by using a default method, which only allows you to export one component from a file, we're gonna export it normally, simply by adding the export keyword right here. That way, later on, we'll also be able to add one more button, which can, for example, be rect button or a rectangular button. For now, we only care about our circle button. So let's go into the index.js of our components. And right here, we can import in curly braces, circle button. While we're here, we can also do a rect button. Make sure to create it there. And that's gonna be coming from /button. What we can do now is we can export both of these buttons, circle button right here, as well as the rect button. We can go back to our NFT card and we can import it straight away. The import is going to look like this: import circle button, as well as the rect button from /button. There we go. And now you should be able to see it here. If I remove this text element, you can see that we have this button appearing right here. But now we have to actually style it and position it at the top right of each one of our NFTs. To do that, we can go to our circle button component and we can start styling its JSX. We can first import a few things from React Native, and these things are going to be something called touchable opacity. Then we need the text element, and then we're gonna need an image element. You might be wondering, what the heck is a touchable opacity? It sounds weird. Well, believe it or not, in React Native's language, touchable opacity is nothing more than a simple button. We're gonna have a touchable area, which we can of course touch, and then click something. So hopefully it makes sense. We're not actually clicking, rather we are touching. So it's not a button, it's a touchable opacity. A bit of a mouthful, but hopefully it makes sense. So let's go ahead and use that touchable opacity right here instead of the view. That's going to be touchable opacity. And we're gonna apply some styles to it. So we can say style. It's going to be an object. And let's give it a width of something like 40. Let's also give it a height of 40. Let's give it a background color equal to colors.white. You're gonna notice that we haven't yet imported the colors, and in React Native, whenever you make a mistake, you immediately get that huge error here. So I'm going to comply immediately and just import the colors, sizes, fonts, and shadows. And that is coming from /constants. There we go. So now you can see this touchable opacity right here. Let's also provide a position equal to absolute. Now it's going to appear at the top left. We can give it a border radius set to something like sizes dot extra large. It's essentially a circle. Then we also want to give it an align items property equal to center, as well as the justify content property equal to center. Finally, we can also apply shadows dot light like this, And we also need to pass all of the props that we're passing to our circle button. So what we can do is use object destructuring here, get our IMG URL, as well as the handle press, which we're going to be sending on later, and we can spread all of the props. So right here, we can also simply spread all of the props. Now it's going to appear at the top right. The reason why it's doing that is because if we go to our NFT card, you can see that we're passing properties right and top 10, which are going to move the absolutely positioned div to the top right. We can also provide the on press to this touchable opacity, which is going to be set to handle press. There we go. And inside of this touchable opacity, we're going to provide an image. That image is going to have the source equal to IMG URL. It's also going to have a resize mode set to contain. And finally, it's going to have a style equal to width is 24 and height is also 24. And we're going to get this clickable heart at the top right. Looking great. Now we can go back to our NFT card. We have our image and we have our circle button. But now is the time that we go a bit below this image and see what other content does each NFT have. So let's go below this view and we're going to implement a component called SubInfo. This is a new component that we're going to create in our components folder called SubInfo.js. We can again type RNFE SubInfo, and inside of that SubInfo, we're going to actually have a few different components which we're going to export. So it's not going to be just a single export default. We're going to have the export const. That's going to be NFT title. We can copy the NFT title here, and we can copy this entire block of code, collapse it. Below that, we're going to have export const ETH as in ether price. And in here, we can simply again for now return ETH price. We're going to have a few more. The next one is going to be image CMP. We can again copy this and collapse it. Then the next one is going to simply say people. These are all different info components that we're going to implement. Below people, we're going to have our end date. So we can say end date right here. And finally, the last one is the one we came for, which is the SubInfo. There we go. Now that we are exporting all of these components, let's go back to our NFT card and let's import them at the top. We can do that by saying import in curly braces SubInfo. We're going to also need the ETH price and NFT title. And all of these components are coming from /SubInfo. There we go. So now you can see the SubInfo appear. We have it here. And now is the time that we actually style it. So let's enter here and let's implement the JSX, or rather React Native code for our SubInfo component. Our SubInfo is going to be a view that's going to have a style div, which is going to be equal to an object. It's going to have a width of 100%. Then it's going to have a padding horizontal, which is going to be set to sizes.font. Then we're going to have a margin top, which is going to be equal to minus sizes.extra large. As you can see now, it's appearing right here inside of our image. We can also give it a flex direction, which is going to be set to a string of row. And finally, we can give it a justify content property equal to space between. If there is a single SubInfo, it's still going to appear at the start of each one of our NFTs. And it's actually looking great. Now, inside of our SubInfo, we want to render the people component and also the end date component. It's going to look like this. These two components are right here inside of the SubInfo as well. So we might as well implement them right away. So right here, for people, we're going to have a view that's going to have a style div equal to flex direction, and that's going to be set to row. Now, because of the space between, you can see we have people and end date. Right now, we're styling the people. Inside of here, we want to loop over different people. So the first thing we have to do is import a few things from our constants. That's going to be sizes, fonts, colors, shadows, and assets. So what we can do is inside of the people, we can actually map over them. So we're going to open a dynamic block of code with an array. We're going to have assets dot person 02, assets dot person 03, and let's do also assets dot person 04. We want to map over them. When mapping, we're going to get the individual image URL, and of course, we always get an index. And we want to instantly return yet another component that is inside of our SubInfo, image CMP. I hope that now you can see why we created all of these components in the same file, because we're using them amongst each other. The SubInfo is using the people and the end date, and then the people component is using the image component as well. So let's now transition to the image component. That's going to be just a single image with some styles and properties. The source is going to be set to image URL, img URL. The resize mode is going to be set to contain. The style is going to be set to width is 48, and also height is set to 48. And finally, we're going to have a dynamic margin left property where we want to check if this is the first image in the row. So we can check if index is equal to 0. In that case, we return 0, else we return minus sizes dot font. And this index and the image URL are going to be coming as props to our image component. So img URL as well as the index. Now that we know what this image takes in, we can also pass that right here. So that's going to be img URL equal to img URL. We're going to also pass the index equal to index, and the key is going to be set to people dash and then index, just to make it unique. Of course, we have to import the image component at the top. We already have the view and the text. Now we need the image, and React we don't need. There we go. So now we're gonna get these nice images of people who are interested in this NFT. This is looking great. With that said, our image component is done and our people component is done as well. Now we can code out our end date component. That component is going to be a view, and that view is going to have quite a few styles. So let's put this into multiple rows and say style is equal to an object. First, let's provide padding horizontal, which is going to be equal to sizes dot font. We're going to also have padding vertical, which is going to be equal to sizes dot base. We're just positioning it around. We're going to also have the background color be colors dot white. And it looks like we're not properly importing the colors. I'm missing an L here. And it looks like in the meantime, our metro and the client got out of sync. So let's scroll down and reload. There we go. So now we can see this end date with a background color. Let's also give it a justify content, which is going to be equal to center, and align items, which are also going to be equal to center. We can give it some shadows by simply spreading all of our shadows dot light here. There we go. Let's give it an elevation equal to 1. And finally, let's give it a max width equal to a string of 50%. There we go. So now we have our end date appearing on the right side. Our end date is going to have a few text elements inside of it. The first one is going to have a style equal to font family is equal to fonts.regular. It's going to have a font size equal to sizes.small. And finally, the color is going to be set to colors.primary. That text is simply going to say ending in. And then we want to duplicate that text. We can space this out just a bit better. So each specific CSS property in its own line, like this. And this one is saying ending in. And now we can duplicate it. So let's hover over it and duplicate. The one below is going to have a font family equal to semi-bold. The font size is going to be medium, and the color is going to remain primary. Let's simply hard code the value here, something like 12 hours and 30 minutes. So now you can see ending in 12 hours and 30 minutes. Of course, these people, as well as the text here, is hard coded at the moment. But if you like this React Native video, and if you'd like me to make it into a series, I can make all of this data dynamic and functional. Just let me know down in the comments. With that said, that's going to be it for our end date component. And with that, we're also done with our SubInfo component. Finally, we can return to our NFT card. Now, below our SubInfo, we're going to render a view. And this view is going to have a style equal to, width is going to be 100%, and padding is going to be sizes.font. Just to provide a bit of padding between our NFT items. Inside of our view, we want to render our NFT title. So let's simply add it here, NFT title as a self-closing tag. And of course, it is misspelled. So let's properly spell it here and here. NFT title. There we go. So now we can go into this component, which I think is the second to last component in our SubInfo we haven't yet created. We have to do the NFT title and then the Ethereum price. So our NFT title is going to be a component that's going to accept a few properties. Let's first pass them in, so we know exactly what to expect. Our NFT title is of course going to have a title property equal to data.name. It's also going to have a subtitle property equal to data.creator. We can also pass a title size to make it dynamic. That's going to be sizes.large. And finally, subtitle size. So right here, if we spell this properly, that's going to be sizes.small. Now we can go into our NFT title. We know which props are we expecting. That's going to be title, subtitle, title size, and subtitle size. There we go. And our NFT title is going to be nothing more than a single view that's going to have a text inside of it, as it already has it now. But that text is not going to render just a basic NFT title hard-coded. We're going to make it dynamic by rendering the title coming from props. So you can see now the title is different for each one of our NFTs. Let's also apply some styles. Style is equal to font family is equal to fonts.semi-bold. Font size is equal to title size, and color is going to be colors.primary. If we save that, this is now going to look more like it, or it is starting to look like a great design. Below this text, we're going to have just one more text property, so we can duplicate it. The font family is going to be fonts.regular. The font size is going to be the subtitle size, so subtitle size, and everything else is going to remain the same, but we're going to render the subtitle instead of the title. So as you can see, we have some subtitles appearing here as well, And this is already starting to look so much better. The next thing we can do is go back to our NFT card. And below our NFT title, we can render one more view. That view is going to have a style. And inside of that style, we're going to have a margin top equal to sizes dot font. We can also give it a flex direction, which is going to be equal to row, like this. Justify dash content, which is going to be set to space between. And finally, align items, which is going to be set to center. Let's add commas. And that view is going to render our ETH price component, as well as that rect button. Remember that second button we created before. Our Ethereum price is simply going to accept one parameter, which is going to be price equal to data.price. So let's code it out first. Let's go to ETH price, open it up. We are accepting only one prop. In curly braces, that's going to be price. If we go to view, we can give it a style equal to flex direction is going to be set to row. And we can also give it align items is set to center. Inside of there, we can render an image. So let's create a self-closing image tag that's going to have a source property equal to assets.eth for that Ether logo. Let's set the resize mode to be set to contain. And finally, let's give it a style. Width is going to be set to 20. Height is also going to be set to 20. And margin right is going to be set just to 2. There we go, more like it. Now let's display a text element below it. That text element is going to render the price. Let's style that price just a bit by giving it a style object. Let's give it a font family equal to fonts.medium. Let's make the font size be equal to sizes.font. And finally, let's set the color to be equal to colors.primary. This is already looking so much better. With that said, all of the components inside of our SubInfo are now completed. And the last thing we have to do to complete our NFT card is this simple rectangular button. This button is going to accept a few properties: min width, which is going to be set to 120. Also font size, which is going to be set to sizes.font, and handle press, which is going to be a callback function using that navigation object. Navigation.navigate, and we want to navigate to the details page like this, details. And then as the second parameter, you can pass in an object containing all the data, which are actually details of that specific clicked NFT. This is how you do navigation using Navigator in React Native. It's quite similar to what we do in React using React Router. But in here, instead of the URL, we have the name of our stack. So if we go to our app, you can see that right here, we gave a name to each one of our screens, details and home. So in here, we know to navigate to the details component. With that said, let's go to our rect button, which is going to be inside of our button component. And we can essentially copy the entire touchable opacity of the circle, paste it right here, get these few props we were talking about, such as min width, font size, handle press, and the spread of all of the props. Now we can of course modify this touchable opacity. We will no longer have the width and the height properties. The background color is going to be primary. We won't have the position. Border radius is going to remain extra large. We won't have the align items nor justify content nor shadows. But we do want to add a min width property, which is going to be equal to min width coming from the props. And finally, we want to add a padding property equal to sizes dot small. Our touchable opacity is not going to have an image, so we can remove it. Rather, we will have a text element. That text element is simply going to say place a bid, because we're working on a bidding platform for NFTs. And let's apply some styles. The styles are going to be font family, which is equal to fonts.semi-bold. We're going to also have the font size equal to font size coming from the props. Color is going to be set to colors.white. And finally, text align is going to be set to center. If we save that, we have a beautiful looking rectangular button, which is more like a pill, and it beautifully accompanies the rest of this beautiful design. Looking at this entire flat list of NFTs now is just beautiful. It's looking great. We have a great NFT image, people who are bidding, the name, the subtitle, the price, the button to place a bid, the ending time, and a button to add it to favorites. What more can you ask for? With that said, we are completely done with our NFT card component. Now let's close it and let's go back a bit. We can also collapse all the files and folders, go to screens, and go to home. Remember, this whole time we were working on the NFT card component. But if you think about it, that is one small component, but it plays a major role on how our entire app looks like, because we are scrolling through all of these great looking NFTs that are inside of the flat list. The next component we're going to implement is going to be our home header, the header that's going to appear above our flat list. You can think of it like a navigation bar, and it's also going to give us some info about the currently logged in person. Once we're done with the home header, we can go straight into the NFT Details page, which is going to be the second of our two screens. With that said, let's go straight into the home header and let's start implementing it right away. Inside of our home header, we can first import a few things from React Native. These are going to be view, text, image, and for the first time in this video, text input. So let's create a text input. There we go. We don't need this React import, but we do need the import of all of our constants. So that's going to be import colors, fonts, sizes, and assets coming from / constants. Now we have everything we need to create our home header component. Our home header is going to start with a view that's going to have a style equal to an object, where the background color is going to be equal to colors.primary. We're going to also apply some padding equal to sizes.font. So now you can see a bit of a space at the top. Inside of that view, we're going to create an additional view inside of it. The inner view is also going to have a style object, and it's going to have a property of flex direction equal to row, as well as justify content equal to space dash between, and align items is equal to center. Inside of there, we want to have an image. This is going to be a self-closing image tag, which is going to have a source equal to assets.logo. Here we have our Pro Nef logo. We can set the resize mode to be equal to contain and just modify the width and the height a bit. So width can be about 90 pixels and the height can be something like 25. There we go. This is more like it. Below that image, we're going to have one more view, and this view is going to have a style equal to width 45 and height 45 as well. This view is going to contain one more image. This image is going to be source assets.person01. This is going to be our logo. We can also set the resize mode to be equal to contain. Now let's apply some styles to this image. So that's going to be style. And we can set the width to be equal to 100% and the height to 100% as well. And that nicely positions it at the top right of the screen. Below that image, we're going to have one additional image. And for now, I'm simply going to duplicate it. The below image is going to have the source equal to assets.badge. There we go. That's going to be this checkmark badge. But instead of width 100% and the height of 100%, it's going to have a position set to absolute, width set to only 15 pixels, and the height set to 15 pixels as well. Finally, we have to set the bottom to be 0 and right to be 0 as well. And now it's going to be nicely positioned right here at the bottom right of our profile image. It simply indicates that this profile is verified. I can imagine that this is really hard to see on your screen, but take your phone in your hand and look closely into it and you should be able to see it. A good thing about Expo is that I don't even have to use my mouse to scroll through the app. I just took my phone in my hand and I can nicely scroll through the app. It seems a bit laggy on the screen share that you can see, but on my phone, it is incredibly fluid, as it should be for you as well. So take your phone in your hand and see how it looks. Play with it a bit. It's just amazing that we can open up our app on our phone while we're developing it. With that said, we can go below this view and below one more view to create another view. This view is going to have a style equal to margin vertical is going to be sizes.font, just to provide some extra space margin. Inside of there, we can have a text element. And this text is going to have a style equal to font family fonts.regular. Also, font size is going to be set to sizes.small. And finally, the color is going to be set to colors.white. It's simply going to say hello and then Victoria. Of course, you can put any name here. We can also just go to Google and search for wave emoji copy and paste. Go ahead and copy it, and we can add that right here next to the name. There we go, and we can duplicate this text just below. Let's change the font family to fonts.bold, font size to sizes.large. The color can remain white, but let's add just a bit of a margin top, something like sizes.base divided by 2. There we go, just to make it a bit smaller. So now we have hello Victoria, and on the bottom one, let's say something like let's find a masterpiece. So this is already looking great. Now we have a meaningful header. Let's just add one more view below this view with these two text elements. So this view is of course going to be a view. It's going to have a style equal to margin top is equal to sizes.font. And it's going to have one more view inside of it. That view is going to contain an image and a text input. So let's start with the image first. Image is going to be a self-closing tag that's going to have the source equal to assets.search. There we go. We can also set the resize mode to be equal to contain. And finally, we can set the style to be equal to width, something like 20. Height, let's also do 20. And margin right can be set to sizes.base. There we go. So now we of course have to add the text input below. And text input is just like a regular web input. We can add a placeholder equal to search NFTs. We can also set the style to be equal to flex 1. And finally, on change text, for now, we can leave as an empty callback function. Of course, we have to provide some styles for this to actually look like an input. So let's provide these styles to the view element, wrapping both of the image and the text input. Let's say style is equal to an object. Let's give it a width of 100%. Let's also add a border radius of something like sizes.font. We can also add a background color to be colors.gray. Now we should finally be able to see it. Let's style it just a bit more by giving it a flex direction to be set to row, already looking better. Align items is going to be set to center, and padding horizontal is going to be set to sizes.font, and padding vertical is going to be set to sizes.small -2. So now we have a real input, and if you click it, you can see that a keyboard opens up and you can start typing in it. So this is great. This is how we can interact with a phone's keyboard. Great. With that said, our home header is now completely done. Just later on, we're going to provide the onSearch function here, which is going to allow us to actually search through these NFTs. So we can immediately pass it right here instead of this callback function, simply onSearch. And that's it. We are done with the home header component. As you can see, it makes this application just a bit more complete. We have this header, logo, the image of the currently logged in user, hello, and then the name of the person. Let's find a masterpiece. We can search through the NFTs, and then finally, we can scroll over them and find the one we like. But of course, now is the time that we go inside of our screens and then details.js. Because once we click on a place a bid button, the details page opens up. And now we need to code it out. We need to show all of the details for that specific NFT that was clicked. So let's go ahead and do that right away. To start coding out our details component, let's first import a few native React Native elements. These are going to be view, text, SafeAreaView, image, StatusBar, and finally FlatList. Then we'll have to import our constants. So we can say import, and then in curly braces, colors, sizes, shadows, fonts, and finally assets coming from /constants. And finally, we'll also have to import all of the components that we'll be using in our details page. Or should I say details screen, because this is no longer a page, it is one specific screen. We have to import the circle button, which we have already created, the rect button as well, the SubInfo, we've already created that as well. Then we're going to import the focused status bar. We have already created that as well. But now there are going to be a few new components. These are going to be details description, or DESC for short, and finally details bid. And all of this is coming from /components. Of course, we'll first have to create the boilerplate structure for our details desk and details bid. We can do that by going to our components and creating two new files, details desk.js, DESC, that's going to be RNFE, and we can repeat the process for details bid.js, RNFE. There we go. And finally, we have to export them in the index.js of our components. That's going to be import details DESC from /details description, and repeat the process for our details bid, and finally export all of them right here. There we go. So with that done, we should be able to normally import them inside of our details component. Of course, now we are yet to use them. So inside of our details, as parameters, we'll be getting two different things: the route which we're on and the navigation component. We get that by default because we are using the details as a component inside of our stack screen. So all of that information is getting passed through. So let's go ahead and console log our route to see what is inside of it. We can simply write a console log right here and pass in the route. What do you think? Is this actually going to work? Think about it. We're not in a browser anymore. We are in a native mobile application. So will this console log work? Well, let's open up the console, and would you look at that? We have our entire console log containing the data about everything we asked for. So this is our route. You can see that our route has some parameters, and that is exactly what we are interested in. So let's say const in curly braces data is equal to route.params. And now let's simply console log that piece of data. We can also make it into a template string like this, spread it through multiple rows or lines like this, make this into a real variable, and then we can add lines like this, just so we can see where this data starts and ends. And there we go. Now we unfortunately get object because it cannot console log it inside of a template string. But if we instead do something like this, where we're simply going to have one console log in one line, then we're going to console log the actual data like this, and then we can again console log the lines. In that case, we can see we start here, and then we have the object containing everything we need about our NFT, and then it ends here. I made this just a bit more complicated than it should have been, but you get the point. You can console log things in React Native. Just make sure to open up the console because that's where the console logs are going to appear. Great. So now let's actually make use of our data. We're going to delete our text and create a safe area view. That safe area view is going to have a style equal to flex is 1. Inside of there, we want to call that same old focused status bar. We're going to pass in the bar style equal to dark-content. Also, background color is going to be set to transparent this time. And the property translucent is also going to be set to true. This way, as you can see right here, the status bar becomes entirely transparent or translucent, however you want to put it, and it is going to fit nicely with our white NFT details page. But on the other hand, if we reload the application, you can see that in here we had a dark header, so we have a dark status bar right here as well. So if we go to place a bid, you can see that now it becomes white. Now below that focus status bar, let's create a view. And that view is going to contain a self-closing rect button component. Rect button is going to have a min width equal to 170. It's going to have a font size equal to sizes dot large. And we also want to spread shadows dot dark. There we go. So now we can see this huge place a bid button. Of course, we need to provide some space from the actual status bar. So let's style this view. We can say style, open up an object, and say width is going to be 100%. The position is going to be set to absolute. Bottom is going to be set to 0. So now we're positioning this button at the bottom. Padding vertical is going to be set to sizes.font. Justify-content is going to be set to center, as well as align items is going to be set to center as well. We can also give it a background color, to something like RGBA, 255, 255, 255, and then 0.5. With the 0.5, we set the opacity to 50%. And finally, the Z index is going to be 1 so that it appears above specific content that is below it. There we go. So now we have this great place a bid button at the bottom, easily accessible with our thumb. Below this view, we can create our second flat list. This flat list is going to be a self-closing component, and inside of it, we want to provide data, but this time data is going to be data.bids. So a list of all people who bid on this NFT. Under render item, we're going to again get a callback function. We can immediately destructure the item inside of it. And we want to return a new component, and that's going to be details bid, a self-closing component that's going to accept the bid, which is going to be equal to item. This details bid is a component which we imported right here from the // components. For now, it is completely empty. Let's go back to our details and place a bid. You're going to notice that right now we have an error. Can't find variable details bid. So let's see what seems to be the issue. That's going to be details bid. We have it here as well, and that's coming from components. So this is looking good to me. Details bid, coming from details bid. Not really sure what's happening with this one. We might want to restart our React Native application to see if the changes are going to take effect. But before we do that, let's just give it a benefit of the doubt, and let's add a few more properties to the flat list, and it's possible that this issue gets resolved on its own. We want to give it a key extractor right here, which we said is similar to the key where we're mapping over React items. So that's going to be item and item.id. We can also add the show vertical scroll indicator, which is going to be set to false. And we can also add content container style, which is going to be equal to padding. Bottom is sizes dot extra large times 3. But it looks like our issue is still not resolved. So let's think about it. Can't find variable details bits. We're calling details bits right here. And if we scroll up, we can see that we are importing it right here. But it says that it's declared but never used. I might have misspelled it. Oh yeah, I said bits right here, and it was supposed to be a bid. My bad. You might be looking at me this whole time and thinking that this issue was really obvious, but there we go. We got it fixed. And finally, before we code out the initial details bid, we can add the list header component. Remember, this is a React component that appears on top of the flat list. So let's wrap everything in a react.fragment, and there we're going to render the details header component, which is a self-closing component. And of course, we have to import React if we want to use this. So at the top, we can say import React from React. There we go. And the details header is something that we're going to code out right away. Since this details header is going to be used only inside of the details, we can create it just above our details component. Const details header is going to be equal to a React functional component with an instant return. It'll be getting data and navigation as props, and it's going to be a single view that's going to have styles or style equal to width 100%, and for the height we can do something like 373. I found that value to work the best. It's going to contain an image or image like this. The source is going to be equal to data.image. So of course, to be able to use this, we have to pass it over. So let's pass some props to our details header. we're going to pass in the data equal to data, as well as navigation is equal to navigation. Now, if we go place a bid, we can see this huge image appearing at the top. Of course, we can style it by providing the resize mode to be equal to cover, as well as style equal to width 100% and also height equal to 100%. And now we can see this NFT appear right here. You can also see how the navigation bar is translucent, so everything can be seen right here. We also want to add two circular buttons. So let's create them. Circular button. The first one is going to have image URL is equal to assets.left. Let's save it. Looks like I misspelled it here. It's going to be circle button, not circular button. So if we go place a bid, you can see this back icon right now. We can also give it a handle press. So it's not handle click, it's handle press in React Native. That's going to be a callback function, which is going to call navigation.go back. So we finally have the navigation between our two pages. If I click here, we go back. If I click place a bid, we go to the details page. Great. And if we open up another NFT here, like this one, we can see that image right here. Let's also add the left property equal to 15, and top property can be equal to StatusBar dot current height plus 10. The StatusBar is not always going to be the same on all devices. So we're going to take its height and then we're going to add 10 to put this just below. And finally, we can duplicate the circle button. The image URL is going to be set to heart. Right is going to be set to 15 instead of left. We don't need the handle press, and the top is going to remain the same. So now we have back, and we also have this heart icon right here. Looking great. That's going to be it for our details header. We can head down to where we called it. And below our details header, we're going to call the SubInfo component. And it just looks like our SubInfo is not exported from components. So right here, we can import SubInfo in curly braces, which is coming from /SubInfo. And finally, we can export it here, SubInfo. There we go. So now if we go back, we can see we have this nice end in and then the people who bid on this project. Now below our SubInfo, we're going to create one more view. That view is going to have the style equal to padding, which is going to be sizes.font, just to apply a bit of padding. Inside of there, we want to render our new component called Details, DESC as in description, and we can pass in the data and close it. For now, it is simply a text saying details description, but we can control click it to go into it. And the details description, as the name says, is a component that's going to allow us to read more information about the NFT we're currently looking at. We're talking title, price, as well as the description. So to code it out, we're going to first import a few things. We're going to import useState from React. We're going to also import view and text from React Native. Then we need a few components which we have already created. These are going to be ETH price as well as the NFT title. And they are coming from /SubInfo. We also need to import the colors, sizes, and fonts coming from /constants. There we go. And as a prop, we're going to pass the data about our NFT. So let's start by rendering an empty React fragment. Inside of there, we're going to render a view. And inside of that view, we're going to render the NFT title like this, a self-closing component. It's going to have a title equal to data.name. We can also give it a subtitle equal to data.creator. Let's also give it a title size equal to sizes.extra large, and also the subtitle size to be equal to sizes.font. And I can fix this large right here. There we go. Already looking so much better. Finally, below the NFT title, we can also render the ETH price, which is a component we already created, and we can pass in the price equal to data.price. There we go. You can see how easy it is to create it once we already have the components that we are now reusing. Let's also apply some styles to this view. Style. Let's give it a width of 100%, a flex direction to be set to row, justify content to be set to space dash between, and finally align dash items to be set to center. Now the price is appearing on the right side and the title and the subtitle appearing on the left. Now below the view containing these things, we're going to create one more view that's going to contain the description. This view is going to have a style equal to margin vertical, is going to be set to sizes dot extra large, and then that's going to be times 1.5 because we really want to apply some distance between the name and the description. It's going to contain a text property, and that text is for now going to simply say description. We can apply a style to that text. That's going to be an object containing the font size equal to sizes dot font. Font family is going to be set to fonts dot semi-bold. And finally, the color is going to be set to colors dot primary. There we go. Now below that text, we're going to contain the view that's going to contain the actual description. This view is going to have a style equal to margin top. That's going to be sizes dot base. Finally, we can copy this text right here, paste it inside of our view. The font size now is going to be small. Font family is going to be regular. Color is going to be secondary. And line height is going to be set to sizes dot large. And we should be able to see the description, but not just the word description, rather the actual description, which we can find under data.description. If we save this, you can see this whole description right here. Now let's go back and look at a few other NFTs. Here, for example, this one has a longer description. Let's go through a few more. This one has a shorter one, but you can see that the name, the image, and the description, everything else is fully custom for that specific NFT. Now, let's go to the one that has the long description. I think it was this one. No, I missed it. This one, there we go. So we want to add a button that's going to say show less or read more, because we don't initially want to show this entire huge description. So what we can do is, instead of rendering the data.description here, in here, we can simply render text, which is going to be in the state. So we can simply say use state, and then click this use state snippet, say text, press tab, and then initially that's going to be data.description.slice, and then from 0 to 100, meaning only the first 100 characters. But now, how do we actually make it longer? Well, we can create one more use state. That's going to be read more and set read more, which is at the start going to be set to false. We can scroll down, and below this text, if not read more, then we want to show 3 dots. So now if we save this, let's see, this must be rendered within a text element. So yeah, let's expand this text and put the read more inside of it, right above the text, like this. There we go. So now if we save this, go to that NFT, you can see that we have 3 dots now. But below that, we're going to provide another text element. And this text is going to have, again, style equal to an object. We can even copy the styles from the above one, paste them here. Font size is going to be set to small. Font family is going to be set to semi-bold. Color is going to be set to primary. And we don't need the line height. This text is going to look into the read more state. And if that is set to true, it's going to add a space and say show less. Otherwise, we want to say read more and save that. There we go. So now we have this read more button. But is it actually a button? Well, it's not unless we add a property called onPress. So right here, to this text element, I'm going to add the onPress property, which is going to be equal to a callback function. And this function is going to check the read more property and say if not read more, then set text to be equal to data dot and then the entire description. And also set read more to true. Now else, if it is read more, we can copy this. And then we want to shorten the text. So data.description.slice from 0 to 1. Shorten it to 100 characters and set this to false. Let's save it. And now if we click this read more button, you can see the text expands and this text at the bottom says show less. So this is actually working perfectly. And if we go back, once we initially open up the NFT, you can see that it's going to say read more and the text is only going to have 100 characters. The only reason we've done this is because that's going to provide us more space to implement our details bid. So if we go back to our details, below our details description, we can check if data.bids.length is greater than 0. In that case, we can render a text element. This text is simply going to say current bid like this. And we can also apply some styles to that text. So that's going to be font size is equal to sizes.font. Font family is going to be equal to fonts.semibold. And finally, the color is going to be set to colors.primary. There we go. So we have our current bid right here. And finally, now is the time that we implement the actual list item element, which is the details bid. So we can control click into it to get to the details bid component. Inside of here, we're going to import view, text, and also image from React Native. We're going to also import the ETH price component coming from /SubInfo. And finally, we're going to import colors, sizes, and fonts coming from /constants. You can see how if you follow great coding practices and create specific constants and reusable components, the more you code and the more you create your project, the easier it is going to be, because we're following a specific structure and reusing all of the components. So our details bid is going to accept the actual bid as a prop, and it's going to return a view. That view is going to contain an image. The image is going to have the source equal to bid.image. The resize mode is going to be set to contain, and also the style is going to be set to width is 48 and height is 48 as well. These are just going to be the faces or the profile pictures of the people who are bidding on this NFT. Below the image, we also want to create a view. That view is going to contain the text. So right here, we can say text. And that text is simply going to say, for now, bid placed by bid.name. There we go. We can immediately provide some styles to that text. So style is going to be equal to font family is going to be fonts.semi-bold. Font size is going to be sizes.small. And color is going to be colors.primary. There we go. We can duplicate this text just below. And instead of the bid placed by, we can render the bid.date. Let's change the styles just a bit. Font family is going to be regular. Font size is going to be small -2 to make it just a bit smaller. Color is going to be secondary. And margin top is going to be set to 3. There we go. Finally, below the text and below the view, we can render our Ethereum price or Ether price, which is a self-closing component that simply accepts the price as the one and only prop, and we can pass in the bid.price. There we go. The last thing we have to do is apply some styles to our view to make all of our content align nicely in one row. So that's going to be width 100%. Flex direction is going to be set to row. There we go, already looking better. Justify content is going to be set to space dash between. Align items is going to be set to center. Let's add a comma right here. Important not to forget that. The margin vertical is going to be set to sizes.base. And finally, the padding horizontal is going to be set to sizes.base as well. So now we can see the current bids as well. It would make more sense to go into details and right here say current bids, as we can see multiple. One more thing that I would do is if we go to details bids, I would apply just a bit more padding here. So I'm going to say sizes.base times 2. So everything fits into the screen nicely. And would you look at that? Our NFT details screen is now complete and it is looking great. We can scroll over everything. Once our button gets above a specific element, you can see how we have the opacity of 0.5 here. So it looks like it's coming over it. That is looking great. We have this image in the full glory. And now we can explore all of the different NFTs and read their NFT details. This one has 4 bids. Let's look at the black box model. Looking great as well. With that said, the NFT details page is now completely done. The last thing we have to do to complete the entire UX and UI of this application is implement the search functionality. So for example, if we type black box right here, we should be able to see only the black box NFT right here. So that's going to be our next task. Let's close all of the files and folders, collapse everything, and just open up screens and home. Right at the top of our component, in here, we're going to implement the search functionality. To start implementing the search, we need to have our use state imported right here, and all of the other imports we need are right here. We won't be needing the text though. So let's add a few empty lines right here, and let's implement the search. What we can do is create a new use state field. We can use the used state snippet, and let's call it NFT data, and set NFT data, and then by default, we're going to set that to be NFT data that is coming from our constants. So that's going to be that huge array of all NFTs. What we can do then is create a new function called handle search, which is going to be an arrow function. And this arrow function is going to accept value as its first and only parameter. First thing that we can do is we can check if value.length is equal to 0, or we can simply say if no value.length. In that case, we can simply set NFT data to be equal to the original NFT data. And we want to leave the handle search function so we can immediately return this. But if we do have the value length, meaning if the user typed something in here, then we can filter through our NFT data. Const filtered data is equal to NFT data dot filter, and a dot filter is a function like a for each or a map. It is an iterator function where through each iteration we get access to the item we're currently iterating over. So let's say item, and we can simply check if item dot name dot to lower case and then dot includes. So if it includes, and then we can pass in the value and then dot to lowercase. Let me put this in a new row. There we go. So we are looping over all of our NFTs, and we're only keeping the ones that include the value of our current search term. What we can do then is check if filtered data dot length. That means, is there at least one element that exists in that search? If that is the case, then we can set NFT data to be equal to filtered data. And I see I have a typo here that's supposed to be filtered data. And if that is not the case, meaning else, we can again simply set NFT data to be the original unaltered array. There we go. Now that we have this handle search function, we can actually use it inside of our home header. The only thing we have to do is pass the onSearch prop right here equal to handle search. Now, if we go to the home header, you can see that we're accepting this onSearch and we're actually passing it to our text input. Another important thing we have to do is instead of the static NFT data, we can now pass the NFT data which resides in our state and is going to change. Now, as soon as we do that, we can take the phone in our hand and we can start typing something. Let's go for the black box. And it looks like it's not working. So what could be the case? We are filtering through our NFT data. We have the handle search, and this state should be changing. Let's check our FlatList. The NFT data is here and the handle search is here. Oh, would you look at that? I have a typo, so that is supposed to be on search. There we go. So now if we save that and if we try typing something, there we go, black box. We can also search for something like NFT, NFT coins race, Nifty NFT. Let's try to search for something else. Let's find some interesting ones. We have art, so let's search for art. There we go. This now works perfectly. We can open it up, see more information. This one doesn't have any bids, but if we go back, search for all of them, we can find the one with a bid. There we go. This one has 3. And if you have a phone that has gestures, you can also go back with the gesture. So as you can see, I didn't click the back arrow. I just used my gesture and it worked perfectly. You've just developed a full-fledged React Native mobile application. Congrats. Our design is completely done. Both the homepage and the details page, as well as the search NFT. So everything is working perfectly. This was more of a UI and UX project, but if you'd like me to add some extra features or create tutorials on more complex applications with more features, just let me know down in the comments. I'm definitely excited to start posting more React Native content. Once again, great job and congratulations on coming to the end of building your React Native application. As you guys already know, here on JavaScript Mastery, I always take you one step further. So even though we've fully built out our React Native application, we're not stopping there. I'm going to teach you how to create a beautiful looking landing page for our NFT application. On here, you can showcase all of your app's possibilities and features. And we're going to also provide a link to the published React Native Expo application, so that everybody who visits this specific landing page can immediately download the ProNev application as well. As you can see, we're gonna also add a lot of these great mockups and also the link to the source code. This is a great project that perfectly goes hand in hand with the React Native application we've already created. Once you develop it, you don't just have to use it for the ProNev application. You can use this exact template for every single new React Native application that you create. And as you can see right here, there is a button that's going to lead us to our deployed React Native application, so everybody will be able to simply scan the QR code and immediately get the app running on their phone. With that said, let's develop it. To start coding out the landing page for our React Native application, we can create a new folder right next to our initial folder. Let's name it something like Showcase, because this is going to be the showcase landing page for our React Native application. Once you've created the folder, you already know the drill. You can simply drag and drop it into an empty Visual Studio Code window. Once you've done that, we can go to View and then Terminal. Finally, we can clear our console and we can run npx create-react-app and then / to initialize a new React application in our current directory. This process usually takes just about a minute, so I'm going to pause this video and I'll be right back. And there we go. Our app is now initialized. Before we go ahead and run npm start, let's install all of the necessary dependencies for our landing page. In this case, we'll be using Tailwind CSS. It is a CSS, let's call it a framework, packed with utility classes such as Flex, PT4, Text Center, and so on. Essentially, you have these CSS classes that you can immediately inject straight inside of your code to style different designs. This makes it incredibly handy and quick to create a good-looking custom design really easily. So to set up Tailwind, we're just going to go to Tailwind CSS docs, more specifically the guide for the Create React app. I'm going to leave the link in the description as well. You can come to this page and we can start. We already initialized our project, so we can run this command by copying it right here and simply pasting it right there. This just installed the necessary Tailwind dependencies, and now we can run npx tailwind css init-p. This just created a new post-CSS config file. The next step is to add the content right here to our tailwind.config.js. So if we go back and go to tailwind config.js, right here, we can replace this content and just paste what we copied. There we go. And the next step is to add the Tailwind CSS directives to our source index.css. This is going to allow us to use all of the Tailwind's classes. So let's copy it, go to our index.css, and we can paste it right here. Alongside these three lines, down in the description, there's going to be an index.css file, which you can simply copy and paste right here. This file is going to provide us with some basic generic files, like different banners, as you can see banner 1, 2, and 3, banner 4 as well as some animations. Again, nothing special, no logic is moving around here. While we're here, we can also clean our source a bit, because there are going to be a few files which we don't need. For example, logo SVG can be deleted, report web vitals can also be deleted, and setup tests. This is going to allow us to go to index.js and clean all of the non-used files. For example, report web vitals here. There we go. We also won't need the app.test.js, so we can remove that. And we are left with index.js, index.css, and then finally app.js, which contains our basic React application. App.css won't be needed, so we can delete that as well. We can remove it from here, as well as the logo. We can transition this function app into a const app to stay new with the ES6 plus syntax, and we can export it at the bottom. Inside of there, we can simply say h1, that's going to say React Native NFT
showcase. There we go. And we can save that. If we've done everything correctly, we should be able to run our application. Before we do that though, you can see that we can start using Tailwind in our project by adding these specific class names. So let's copy them and just add them to our H1 right here. There we go. So now our H1 should be really large, should have a font bold, and should be underlined if Tailwind is set up properly. There we go. So let's close all of the files, just keep the app.js here, and let's run our application by running npm start. Once localhost 3000 loads up, you're gonna see a few weird errors. No worries at all, these errors are coming from index.css because in here we're requesting specific SVG assets which we don't yet have in our file tree. So what we can do is, for the last time in this video, you can go to the description and then find the zipped assets folder. You can unzip it and then paste it straight inside of the source folder right here. That's going to give us access to all of the assets, such as these banners, also different icons, and everything else we need inside of our project. Great. I just saved you a lot of time there because now we have all of the assets already prepared. The last thing we need from our description is going to be the global.js file. So we can go inside of the source and create a new folder called styles. Inside of there, you can paste that global.js file. As you can see right here, it doesn't have any logic. It's just going to have some basic styles, which we're going to reuse across our entire application. For example, white text, black text, H1 text, which makes it a bit bigger, gives it some fonts, also P text, description text. We've extracted all of the classes here so that we can more easily use them straight inside of our code. Great. With that said, we should go back to our localhost 3000 and everything should be working. There we go. React Native Showcase. We are ready to start with the development. Of course, before we start coding out the layout, it makes sense to divide our screen in two different sections. On the left side, we have our code, and on the right side, we can see the changes we make in our code live. So to start off, we can open up our file tree and create a new folder inside of the source folder called components. Inside of the components folder, we're gonna have 4 different components. The first one is going to be just a simple button.jsx component. Inside of there, to really speed up our workflow, we can use something known as RAFCE, React Arrow Function Export Component. Once you type it out and press enter, it is going to immediately generate a button component. If this didn't work for you, you most likely don't have the necessary extension installed. So what you can do is type ES7 snippets, there we go, and you should be able to see ES7 Plus, React Redux React Native Snippets. Feel free to install this, and then you should be able to run RAFCE, and the code is going to appear. With that said, we can now repeat the process for 3 more components. The next one is going to be download.jsx, again, a component which we're going to reuse a lot. Let's simply run RAFC again. We're going to have a new component called features.jsx. Inside of the features, we're again going to run RAFCE. And the final and most important component is going to be section wrapper.jsx. We're going to use this component to wrap each one of our sections. Again, for now, RAFCE, section wrapper. What we can do now is go inside of our app.js and we can import all of these components. That's going to look like this, import, and that's going to be download from /components/download. Now we can repeat the process 3 more times or 4 more times for the components features and section wrapper. But as you can see, we already have too many lines. If we had a few more imports, this wouldn't be manageable. So there's a quick trick I can show you to simplify the import and export process. The only thing we have to do is add a new file inside of the components folder
called index.js. Inside of that file, we can import all of our components, such as import features from /features. And we can also import, of course, the download component. There we go. And finally, we can also import the section wrapper. The last thing we have to do is we have to export all of them from this single file. Export features, download, and section wrapper. That's it. You might be wondering, why are we not exporting the button? Well, because the button is not going to be used itself inside of the app.js. Rather, we're going to use it inside of these other components, so we don't have to specifically export it. But with this done, if we now go to app.js, instead of doing 3 lines, we can simply write 1 line. This doesn't have to be /components and then the name. It just has to be components, like this. And in curly braces, we can specify all of the components we want to import. Download, features, and section wrapper. There we go. Just to test things out, we can now call these 3 components. Let's do download. There we go. And we can also do features. And finally, section wrapper. There we go. We imported all of these 3 components. For now, they're simply showing a piece of text specifying their name. But soon enough, we're going to add actual JSX there and create a great looking NFT showcase. Let's start with the work inside of our app.js. Inside of there, we're first gonna use our section wrapper, but we're gonna wrap it in an empty React fragment. We don't need this h1 here, so we can delete it. And the only thing we need is going to be a self-closing section wrapper component. We do want to pass some props to it, so I can expand it in multiple lines. And the props we are gonna pass are gonna be title, which is going to be something like your own store of nifty NFTs. Start selling, like this, and growing. There we go. This is looking good. Then we're going to have a description. A description in this case can say something like buy, store, collect NFTs, exchange, and earn crypto. Join, and let's do something crazy like 25 plus million people using Pro NFT Marketplace. And of course, that is the marketplace of our mobile application. So we're really going one step further and creating a special landing page for our React Native application. That's really going to make it stand out. Later on, we're going to add a link to Expo so that you can immediately load your application straight from the showcase landing page. And one really special thing we're going to do at the end is deploy this website to IPFS, decentralized hosting. Isn't that crazy? But one step at a time. Next thing we need to pass is show BTN. Sometimes in the section wrapper, we do want to show the button, and sometimes we don't. We're going to also pass the mockup image right here, which is going to be assets.home hero. Of course, these assets right here are coming from the folder called assets. So what we can do is simply say import assets from /assets. There we go. And the last thing we're going to pass in is say banner is equal to banner. Later on, we'll be able to pass banner 2, 3, or 4. In this case, this is just going to be the initial banner. Now that we've passed all of the necessary props, we can go into the section wrapper component and actually code it out. We already know which props are we getting. So let's simply do curly braces here and let's retrieve them. We're getting the title, description, the show BTN property, also the mockup image, and that's going to be it for now. Right here, what we can do now, just to check things out and see if everything works, is create a few H1s containing each one of the properties. So one is going to be for the title, one for description. With show BTN, we cannot do anything yet. And for the mockup image, what we can do is create an img tag and then pass the mockup image as the source. Mockup img right here, and alt can be something like mockup. There we go. So as soon as we do this, you can already see something. We have our great application right here, and we also have our heading and our description. Looking great so far. To give some structure to our new section wrapper, of course, we have to provide some styles. So this initial div is going to have a class name equal to min-h-screen. That's simply going to give it a full height, 100 VH. We also want to give it some styles from the global styles, which you can find right here. So let's go ahead and import them. Right here at the top, we can say import styles from /styles/global. There we go. We're going to also need the assets for later on. So let's go ahead and import the assets as well. So that's going to be from /assets. There we go. Now we can transition this from a basic string to a template string like this. There we go. And that's going to allow us to pass real variables inside of there, such as styles.section. There we go. This is now going to apply some flex properties to it, and the text is going to appear on the left side and the image on the right side. Essentially, it turned it into a row. We also want to apply one more additional styles, which is going to be styles.bgWhite, just like that. Because later on, we're going to reverse it for each new section that comes. And finally, and most importantly, we're also going to provide the banner class name, which is going to be coming from our props. So right here, we can say banner. There we go. This is going to apply this nice bluish background as well as the waves on the bottom. It's already looking so much better. What we can do now is create a div inside of our initial root div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to flex items-center. And we can also apply some styles. So we're going to make this a template string like this. You have to wrap it in curly braces if you want to make it a template string. There we go. Then we're going to say styles.box class like this. If we go into styles, you'll be able to see that box class simply gives it a property of flex row, and on medium devices, it turns it into a column so that everything fits properly. Great. Inside of that div, we're going to have one more div right here. And that div is going to have a class name. We can immediately use a template string of styles.desc, as in description, div. And of course, we have to wrap it in $ and curly braces. We're going to also provide a property called fade left mini. And that's going to add a fade animation on the left side. So if we reload the page, we should be able to see that it's kind of going to fade left in. And that's going to be it for the class names of this div. Inside of there, we can add an h1. We can pull the h1 we already have, which is going to be this one. And let's give it some class names. We can simply say class name. Again, we're going to have a template string, styles, $ curly braces, styles.h1, text, just like this. There we go. Now you can see it is going right out of our screen because our image is taking too much space. So it makes sense to comment out our image for now. And there we go. This is already looking so much better. Now we can see our title right here. And just below our H1, we're going to have our description. Description is of course going to be in a p tag, p as in paragraph, but it's also going to have its own class name. Class name is equal to, again, $ curly braces, styles.description text. There we go. So now we have this great title as well as the description on the bottom. Finally, in some sections, sometimes we'll want to show the button. And if we look inside of our app.js,
This is one of these sections. So what we can do, open a dynamic block of code and say if show button is true, so show button and inside of here, we're going to render our button component. And of course, the button is coming from import button from dot slash, and that's going to be, no, that's even just dot slash because we're already in the components folder. So import button from dot slash button. To that button component, we can pass two props. The first one is going to be the asset URL, and that's going to be assets.expo. And the next one is going to be the link that this button is going to lead us to. In this case, that's going to be the link to our deployed NFT Marketplace React Native application. So for now, we're going to leave this empty, and later on, we're going to deploy our NFT Marketplace and attach the link right here. So for now, let's go to the button component and let's actually implement the JSX and the styles for it. We already know that this button takes in the asset URL as well as the link. While we're here, we can also immediately import styles from styles/global. There we go. Our button is actually going to be one div that's going to have a class name is equal to styles.btn black. And of course, it's going to have an onClick property, so we can space this out in multiple rows and add the onClick equal to a callback function that's simply going to call the window.open, and we want to open up the link from our props and pass the underscore blank to open it in a new page. Now that we have our button, let's add the image icon inside of it, a self-closing image tag that's going to have the source of asset URL, and it's going to have an alt tag equal to expo icon. We can also add a class name, which is going to be styles.btn icon. And there we go. This is the expo icon. Below that, we can add a div, which is going to be used for our text. So that div is going to have two different paragraphs. The first one is going to say view it on, and we can also apply some class names to that text. So class name is equal to, let's make it a template string, styles.btn text, like this to make it white. And also let's add the font-normal as well as text-xs to make it just a bit smaller. We can now duplicate this. The next one is going to say Expo Store, like this. There we go. And we can make this just a bit bolder, so font-bold. And instead of XS, let's make it small, just SM. There we go. We can apply some styles, or class names rather, to our div, and that's going to be flex, flex-column, justify-start, and ML-4, which stands for margin left. There we go. View it on Expo Store. And with that done, our button is actually fully done. It is a really simple button component. Now we can go back into our section wrapper, and below the div that wraps our entire content, we can create one more div. This div right here is going to contain our mockup. So let's give it some class names right here. That's going to be class name is equal to, let's make it a template string as well, flex-1 styles.flexCenter. There we go. And right now we cannot see the changes, so it might make more sense to add the image inside of it so that we can immediately see the changes. I'm going to pull our image above right here. That's going to be image, source is mockup image, alt is going to be mockup, and the last thing we have to do is add a class name equal to styles.sectionIMG. There we go. So again, it's huge, but we're going to style it now with this div. Let's also add a p-8, which stands for padding 8, and on small devices, it's going to be px-0. There we go. So now if we expand this a bit, there we go, you can see that this image is still huge. It is definitely a nice high definition mockup, but we don't want it to be this big. So let's see what styles do we have to change to actually make it just a bit smaller. To make our content fit more properly, let's first remove all of these empty spaces. There we go. And now we can find this div. Where is it being open? The div that contains both the description and the image. The div that has flex, item center, as well as the box class. We're going to apply a few extra classes to it. Width dash, or just W dash, 11 out of 12. This is going to apply about 90% width. Then on small devices, we want to say width dash full, 100% width. And on min MD devices, we want to set the width to be equal to 3 out of 4. There we go. So now if we save that, it kind of looks like, even though we did apply these classes right here, still, our image is not scaling. It's not resizing. It's not getting smaller on larger devices. So what we can do is we can recheck our Tailwind config file. Right here, again, down in the description, I prepared for you a demo Tailwind config file, which you can simply copy and paste right here. That file is simply going to include some colors, as well as some different screen sizes, so that everything is going to fit on the screen properly. Again, this is just something to save your time. I know we've been already working on this React Native application for quite some time now. So I want you to go through the build process of the landing page incredibly easily. There we go. So as soon as you paste that, we have our media queries. And now if you expand it, it's actually looking perfect right here. But you're yet to experience React's full reusability. Right now, we have created the section wrapper component as well as the button component, which we can reuse for all of our upcoming sections. We can go back to our app.js now and look at this. Essentially, we can simply duplicate the entire section wrapper just below. If you save this, you're now going to notice that we have 2 of these sections. But with just some small minimal adjustments, we'll be able to make this look like the entirely new section. First of all, let's change the title to something like Smart User Interface Marketplace. There we go. Then we can change the description. Let's do something really salesy, like experience a buttery UI of Pro Nev NFT Marketplace. Smooth, constant colors of a fluent UI design. There we go. A bunch of nonsense words, but it's kind of better than lorem ipsum or just a basic Latin text. So you can see we have a new title and a new description. Now we won't need a button here because we already had it above. So take a look at this. I just removed this property and the button is gone. But now we want to show something different here. We want to show the home cards. So instead of the home hero, let's simply say home cards. And we get a completely different mockup image. Now for the final detail, we don't need the banner here, so I'm going to remove it. But we do need something called reverse. It is a special prop that we're going to pass to our section wrapper. And now, if we go back, we can accept one more property called reverse. Based on the reverse property, we're going to change some styles and make it look even more custom for every new component. So let's expand this just a bit. And that's going to look like this. In the initial div, we have styles.section, and then we have styles.bgwhite. Let's expand this into multiple rows. There we go. So what we can say is something like if reverse is true, that's going to be reverse question mark. In that case, we want to show styles.bgwhite. Else, we want to show styles.bgprimary. There we go. Now, if we save this, you're going to notice that this is still looking the same, but now we have a white background here. I think that was the case before. But anyways, now we can change this depending on are we on the reverse or are we not on the reverse mode. Let's space this out properly. There we go. And now we can repeat the process with the inner div as well. Let's expand it into multiple rows right here. And we can say if reverse. In that case, we can show styles.box reverse class, else styles.box class. Now you can see this mock image is going to move to the top. Finally, in the description div, we can also spread that in a few lines. We can add a new $sign curly braces and check if it is reverse, then add a new class called fade right mini. So fade from the right side. Else, what we can do is fade left mini. There we go, to fade from the left side. So now if we do this and reload the page, you should be able to notice how everything slides in nicely. You'll be able to see it even better once we expand the screen to the full width. We can add another reverse clause and check if reverse, then styles.text right, usually styles.text left. There we go. And save it. So now the text is appearing from the right side. So with just a few adjustments, we made these sections look almost entirely different. Let's move to this H1 styles right here. That's also going to have some special styling. So let's expand it in multiple rows. And we're going to say if reverse, then styles.black text, and usually styles.white text. There we go. So now in here, black text is going to remain, but at the top, we now have white text, which nicely contrasts with the background. And we can essentially copy that entire line and paste it for the description as well. There we go. So description is also now more clearly visible. The last thing is going to be our mockup. And the only thing we want to change for the mockup is going to be the fade. So we can also copy this fade line right here, expand the class names to a template string. There we go. And expand it in a new line. If reverse, then fade left mini in this case, because we want it to be opposite from the actual text, and fade right mini if we're not reversing. So now, did you just see that? Nice slide from the right side, and the text slides in from the left side. There we go, looking great. With that said, I think we should be good with the section wrapper. So let's expand our browser and explore it in its full glory. There we go. In our first section, we have this beautiful white text on this primary background. We also have this banner, which is actually floating circles or waves. We have this button alongside our great mockup. Now, if we scroll down, you can notice that we get into this nice looking white section with black text where the mockup is appearing on the left side. So it is essentially a whole new section. As soon as we add a few more sections, you're going to notice the power of reusability that React gives you. So let's collapse it one more time. Now, below our second section wrapper, we're going to render a new self-closing features component. We can control-click to go into it, or just go to your file tree and click features. To start off, we can first import all of the necessary things we're going to need, such as import assets from /assets. We can also import these styles coming from /styles/global. There we go. Our features are essentially going to be a div. That div is going to have a class name equal to, let's make it a template string, and then styles.section. So as soon as we do this, it's going to apply some padding. We also want to apply another style, which is going to be styles.bgPrimary. There we go, to make it this nice shade of blue. And finally, banner 03. If we save this, you're we're going to notice that we're going to have a nice shading animation happening here. It's going to be more noticeable once we add more things inside of this div. So the second thing we want to add is going to be yet another inner div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to, let's do a template string, styles.subsection. There we go. And we also want to give it a flex-call as well as text-center. Inside of this div, we're going to have an empty div with no class names, just to contain our content. And by content, I mean the H1, let's say technologies. Technologies used to develop this great NFT application. And below that, we're going to have a P tag, and this P tag is going to say something like Pro Nef, which is the name of the marketplace, has been developed using a cross-platform technology, React Native. There we go. So you're really presenting yourself, not only the NFT marketplace you've built, but yourself as a developer, letting people know that you're using these phenomenal cross-platform technologies, such as React Native, to create great mobile native applications, such as this one, which also has its own landing page. Great. Let's give some class names to our H1. So right here, you can say class name is equal to a template string that's going to be styles.h1 text like this, just to make it a bit bigger and to apply a font. And we can also do styles.white text, since our background is pretty blue. We can repeat the process for our P tag. So I'm going to copy the entire class name and paste it on the P tag. The only difference, instead of styles.h1 text, we're going to use P text right here. There we go. Already looking so much better. Now that we've added these pieces of text, you can also better see the waves. Finally, below this div, we're going to create one more div that's going to have a class name equal to styles.flexWrap. Inside of there, we're going to render a new component called feature card. It is a self-closing component. This component is going to be used only inside of this file. So at the top, let's go ahead and create it. Const feature card. It's going to be an arrow function, and it's going to have an instant return, meaning we can immediately use parentheses here. It's going to, for now, simply return a div that can say something like icon text. There we go. And it's going to get two props. First of all, the icon URL, as well as the icon text. There we go. Now we can call it first time by passing the icon URL equal to assets.react, and also the icon text is going to be equal to React Native. Now, if we call it, you can see React Native appear right here. But now if we duplicate it, we can pass the assets.javascript, which is going to be another icon URL, and we can pass in the JavaScript as the language. There we go. So finally, now we can go above to feature card component and we can style it out. This div is going to have a class name equal to styles.featureCard. This is already going to make it a lot different because the feature card styles applies a lot of different styles to create this card looking item. It has a BG white, a lot of margin, padding, rounded corners. It justifies everything around, positions the items in the center, and applies a small shadow once we hover. Inside of there, we don't simply want to render the icon text. Rather, we want to render the img tag, which is going to have a source equal to icon URL. We can also give it an alt tag equal to something like icon, and a class name equal to styles.featureIMG. There we go. We're going to get these nice React Native and JavaScript icons appear right there. The last thing we can do is position this properly and
copy this icon text, create a p tag that's going to contain this icon text, and give one single class name to that text, which is going to be class name styles.featureText. There we go, just to make it a bit bolder. That's going to be it for our technology section. Now we have great two different sections, and then we have just a bit of a different section called features to kind of space it out. Now we can go back to app.js and we can simply duplicate the section wrapper 2 more times, believe it or not. We can essentially duplicate these two and just put them below the features. Of course, we'll have to style them a bit differently and provide some different titles and descriptions. So for the first one, below the features, we can say deployment. There we go. And for the description, we can say something like Pro Nef is built using Expo, which runs natively on all users' devices. You can easily get your app into people's hands. There we go. This is great. So as you can see right here, we immediately get this nice title and the description. This section is not going to show a button because we're just explaining the deployment. And the mockup image is now going to be feature. Again, completely different. Finally, we don't need a banner here. Rather, we're going to apply reverse. So now we're going to have a white section. Because we had white here, we had this nice feature to divide it a bit, and then we start with white again. For our last section, we can change the title to something like, let's do creative way to showcase the store. We can also change the description to something like the app contains 2 screens. The first screen lists all NFTs, while the second one shows the details of a specific NFT. There we go. Of course, you can do something shorter there, but I think this just provides a bit more value. Now, we want to differentiate this section from the section below. So what we can do is first we can change the mockup into just assets.mockup. There we go. And we can add, instead of reverse, we can say banner is equal to banner02. This is going to make it completely different. So as you can see, we just copied the original section that we wrote and then applied a few different changes to get a completely different user interface. Let's scroll to the top. Let's reload our page and look at these nice animations. Text is animated from the left side. The mockup is animating from the right side. And if we scroll down, we essentially have a complete landing page comprised of one single section. There we go. We have our features or technologies. We have another reverse section. And finally, we have a new section with another banner right here. Just to add a bit more variety, we're going to add another section, which is called the download section. So below our section wrapper, we can add a self-closing download button. To code out our download, we can of course go into it and we can import everything we need for this file, which is going to be styles from /styles/global, as well as import assets from /assets. And with that, we have everything we need, and we can code out the JSX and the styles for our download the source code section. To start with the download section, we can first give a class name to our main div. We can make it a template string and make it styles.section. This is going to give it some padding and center everything in the middle. We can also give it another class, which is styles.bg white. Although I think it's already white, but this should make the background white. So when we add some inner divs, we can make some difference and contrast between them. Inside of this div, we're going to have one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to, let's spell it properly, a template string that's going to say styles.subsection. It's also going to have a flex-call
and text-center property. Inside of there, we can have a div that's going to have no styles. It's just going to contain an h1, and that h1 is going to say download the source code. So if you want to share the source code of your great application with somebody, this is going to be the section for that. Below our h1, we can create a p tag, and that paragraph is going to say get the full source code on GitHub. There we go. We're going to give it a class name to this h1. That's going to again be a template string with styles.h1 text property, as well as styles.black text. There we go. So this is really going to make it pop, and we can copy that entire class name, paste it to the div as well, and instead of h1 text, this is now simply going to be p text. There we go. Below that div, we can add a button. That button is going to have a class name equal to styles.btn primary, and it can say source code. There we go. Now we have this button. Of course, I need to fix my spelling here, so that's going to be class name, and there we go. If you want, you can apply an onClick property or an href to this button so that it points to your source code on GitHub. Below this button, we're going to add a final div right here, and that div is going to have a class name equal to styles.flexCenter. Inside of there, we just want to show an image, a self-closing img tag that's going to have the source equal to assets.scene. And if we save this, you're going to notice that we have this nice overlay with 5 different mockups in one image. We can also give it an alt tag, which is going to be download_png, and we can give it a class name right here, which is going to be styles.fullIMG. There we go. And that's going to be it for our download section. So now we have a few section wrappers, and if we expand this, take a look. This is looking great on full HD devices. We have our full mockup with the source code right here. And finally, we are going to finish it up with a nice looking, really minimal footer. So let's create a div right here. And that div is going to have a p tag right here. And we can say something like made with love by, we can apply some space right here. There we go, like this. And we can add a span element inside of that p tag. So span right here. There we go. We can add a class name equal to bold to that span. And I'm going to type JavaScript mastery. Of course, feel free to use your own name here. As you can see, we have the text on the bottom, but this is not really looking like a footer, right? So what we can do is we can first apply some styles to our p tag. So class name is equal to, let's do a template string, styles.pText. And finally, styles.white text. There we go. Of course, we have to import the styles inside of this file as well. So that's going to be at the top, import styles from /styles/global. There we go. The last thing we have to do is apply the class names to our div, which acts as our minimal footer. So let's give it a class name equal to px-4, py-2, so px is for padding horizontal, and py is for padding vertical. We can also give it a justify-center, as well as the items-center. There we go. If we save this, we still cannot see anything because our background is white. But if we make it BG primary, you should be able to see our content now. Let's apply a flex-column for the text to appear in the column. And let's also apply the text-center property. There we go. Finally, we can add a small banner, 04, to make it really custom and to make it stand out. Now, if we expand this, you should be able to see, starting from top to bottom, that we have a fully fledged, really optimized landing page, which we've done in a completely reusable way with just a few different sections. Yet it looks really modern, professional, and it nicely showcases all the features of our NFT marketplace. Again, this was just an addition to the great NFT mobile application that we've already done, the first React Native mobile application on the channel. I hope you like this one extra step that we took, because if you think about it, if you're trying to position yourself as a mobile React Native developer or any kind of developer, you want to go that extra step. And think about it. How many developers do? Not a lot. Not a lot of developers create a special landing page for the React Native application they've created. But this just makes it so much more professional. One extremely special thing we're going to do is, since this is an NFT, crypto, and Web3 application, we're going to deploy this landing page on a decentralized hosting server using IPFS, decentralized storage. And not only that, we're going to use an NFT domain from Unstoppable Domains. NFT domain is mintable, and once you buy it, it is completely and entirely yours. Again, completely decentralized as well as the hosting. So if you go on an interview and you present your React Native application and this landing page, you can really dive into the world of Web3 and talk all about it. Of course, the deployment process is coming right up, and I'm sure you'll be amazed on how well the Web2 world is already transitioning to the new and modern Web3. To start deploying our application, we first need to add the link to our published React Native application. We can go to section wrapper and go to line somewhere around 28. There is a button there, a button where you can add a link, and this is going to be the link to your published React Native application. In my case, it's going to look like this. This was the link that you got after you ran the command expo publish in your React Native directory. So just paste it here, and that's all that we have to do so far. The next thing we need to do is go to our package.json right here. Since we're deploying to IPFS, which is a revolutionary way of doing this, we have to add one more property to our package.json. Below private, we're going to add a property called homepage, and we're simply going to set that to dot. There we go. The only thing we have to do. Now we can deploy this to IPFS, a decentralized hosting platform. To host our application on IPFS, we first have to upload it to GitHub. So let's go to GitHub. You can log in and then go to this plus icon and click New Repository. You can give it a name. In this case, I'm going to do something like Showcase. I'm going to click Create Repository. Now we can follow all of these steps inside of our application. So right here, I'm going to type git init. Then I'm going to type git add dot to add all of the files to be tracked. I'm going to say git commit -m, and then that's going to be initial commit. Then we have to change the branch to main. We have to add the git remote origin. And finally, we have to push to that git remote origin. There we go. This took just a few seconds, and if you reload your page, you can see your showcase right here. Now we are ready to host our application on IPFS, decentralized hosting. For that, we can use the website called fleek.co. You can get on the website and click Get Started for free. It's going to ask you to log in using GitHub, so just use that to proceed, because we'll need the access to our repository. Once you sign in, you'll be greeted with a page that looks like this. We can simply click Add a new site. Let's connect with GitHub. It's going to ask you to give access to a specific repository. I'm going to choose only showcase. That's the only one we need. Once you give access, we can install and authorize. And there we go. Now we are ready to add it to continuous deployment, so just choose it right here. Choose the hosting service IPFS and click continue. In here, we can choose the basic build settings. So let's do create React app. It's gonna automatically find out all the commands we need to build our project, and let's click deploy site. This process usually takes just about a minute, so I'm gonna pause this video and I'll be right back. And there we go. Our application has been deployed to a completely decentralized hosting platform. The important thing here is that you got your hash back. We're gonna use this later on. And Fleek also provided us with a custom deployed link right here. So you can select it, right click, and click Go To. This is going to open your site on a decentralized network. But Purple Salad 8288 on Fleek.co, really? We want something more custom. So we're going to hook this up with our custom minted unstoppable domain. Just in case, let's keep this site open because we're gonna need this hash. Back on unstoppabledomains.com, we can go to domains and then my domains. Let's mint the domain we wanna use. In this case, I'm gonna go with jsmastery.crypto and click free mint. We can mint the domain on Polygon. Let's continue. Once we mint the domain, we also have to choose our wallet. I'm gonna go with MetaMask as it is the most popular. And in this case, you'll have to have your MetaMask wallet installed and set up on Chrome. I'm going to explain how to set up MetaMask in just a second, but let me show you how simple this is. Once you actually do have it set up, you simply click sign right here. And you have to confirm your email. Even though I've selected one of my wallets, you can go ahead and add a new one. And with all of these most popular wallets, from now on, Unstoppable Domains will also be supporting blockchain.com, one of the biggest wallets in the crypto world. To download MetaMask, we can go to our Chrome web store. But before downloading MetaMask, we can focus on downloading the Unstoppable extension. This extension is going to help us route to our decentralized domain. So this is going to be like a gateway to our blockchain domain, and it's going to immediately redirect us from our IPFS hash to our custom domain. So make sure to install this because this enables you to route to your specific domain. As you can see, currently the domains are supported natively in the Brave browser and Opera browser. But for Chrome, Firefox, and Edge, we do have to install this extension to make this happen. To set up MetaMask, you can go to your Chrome web store or the extension store of any other browser that you use. Just make sure to search for MetaMask, although I already have it here. And MetaMask is simply an extension for accessing Ethereum-enabled distributed applications. So this is going to allow us to inject Ethereum Web 3.0 API into every website's JavaScript contacts. Essentially, it's going to let us interact with the blockchain and smart contracts. So let's go ahead and add it to Chrome and add extension. It's going to appear at the top and we can also pin it. Once you click it, you're going to see this nice fox and it's going to follow your cursor around and welcome you to MetaMask. Let's click Get Started. If you're first installing MetaMask, you most likely don't already have an account. So let's click Create a Wallet. Let's click I agree, and you have to choose your password. In this case, I'm gonna use a demo password, and let's click Create. Now, when working with cryptocurrencies, your password is not the main thing guarding your account. Your secret recovery phase is. You're gonna be given a phrase of 12 words that are the master key to your wallet and your funds. So if this is your first time working with cryptocurrencies or wallets, make sure to watch this video first. You can pause my video right here, and then we can click Next. I'm gonna pause it and click Next right away. And in here, you can click to reveal your secret words. This has to be secret, and you have to save these words somewhere to be able to access your account if you uninstall MetaMask. So I'm not going to reveal them here. What you can do is open up Notepad on your PC
and then simply copy and paste them there. Then you'll have to click next, and in the next step, you'll have to type them out one by one. Okay, I copied my words, and you simply need to click them in the order that they were first shown to you. I'm going to do that myself here without revealing the secret recovery phase, and then we can click confirm. After you've entered your words correctly, you're going to see a congratulations screen with the tips on storing it safely. Let's click all done. There we go, we can close this, and this is our first Ethereum wallet.
In this case, I'll only keep one of my wallets and click right here. We have to mint our domain to that specific wallet. And one more time, we'll have to verify by email. The minting process started. We can click track progress right here, and we can see when it is actually going to be minted. Of course, the time it is going to take to mint your domain is going to depend on how congested the network is. I'm going to pause the video while the domain is being minted, and I'll be right back as soon as it is. And there we go. While I was talking, the domain got minted. There we go. So now if you go to My Domains, you can see that this domain is now set up. We can go to Manage. And since this is more than a simple domain, it's going to allow you to add your NFT as the profile image, avatar, display name, and everything else you might need to add. Let's check out the website part. Once we're here, we can link our website using the IPFS hash. So let's go to link website. Let's go back to Fleek and copy our IPFS hash. We can go back and paste it right here and click launch website. We'll have to choose one of our wallets. I'm going to go with MetaMask. And a new MetaMask notification is going to trigger, and we can click sign. This process is going to take just about a minute, depending on how congested the Ethereum network is. So I'm going to pause this video and I'll be right back. Once our transaction is completed, we can go to jsmastery.crypto and press enter. It's going to load for just a second, and then you should be able to see our own showcase website straight on completely decentralized hosting. As you can see, the domain changed automatically from jsmastery.crypto to this special IPFS decentralized URL. The main feature, of course, was that we were able to simply type jsmastery.crypto or your own domain name and get straight here. Now you can click view it on Expo, and there you can just scan the QR code and every single person can see your application. As I've mentioned before, for Chrome, for this routing to work, you need to have the Unstoppable extension from Chrome Web Store. So make sure to download it. But if you're on Brave or on Opera, you don't need that extension at all. With that said, that's going to be it for this video. We've built our first React Native application on the channel. We've also built a landing page to showcase our application. And finally, we've deployed it to a decentralized hosting platform and found an NFT domain to match its purpose. With that said, if you'd like to see more React Native videos on the channel, comment down below. I'm looking forward to your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.